Welcome to another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis, and I'm coming to you from a city filled with heroes in bunkers. Mark Sessler, Greg Rosenthal. What is up, boys?
How's it going, gentlemen? I just want to let you know I wore my official NFL Network shirt today. I want the company to approve of me, and that's my first step.
I feel like that is a good move. Not something I would have expected from you, Mark, but at the same time, anything you could do to curry favor in the big picture is smart. And that's sharp.
Whatever it takes.
Greg, how about you?
Yes.
It's not going to be enough for Mark. That's all I have to say.
All right, so much to get to as we crawl towards the scheduled start of training camp. There's a lot of news as the NFL tries to get things figured out in the midst of a global pandemic. So let's get into the news to discuss it all. All right, here we go. An update where we stand now as we are 18 days out from the start of training camp. Here are some game day protocols that are now in place. There will be no on-field seating. Teams will travel to the stadium via a bus. No media allowed in the locker room. No post-game interactions within 6 feet, and no jersey swapping. Greg, this is, some information, but still not the big piece of info that we need to know whether or not this is going to work yet.
Right. It's so far into the future. I don't know if it's doing the NFL any favors. I understand why Ian Rappaport is reporting this, and we have to. But I go back to what Devin McCourty of the Patriots said last week, which really stuck with me. And it was talking about how long the preseason was going to be. And his point was, doesn't matter how long the preseason is going to be. What we need to figure out first is, how do we get back into the locker room? How do we get back to practicing? How do we get ready for this season? The players have not been on the field at all. They haven't had any contact. There's been proposals about, having some players in the facility some days and others are going to be at home. And I think McCourty's point was really well said, which is, if they don't nail the first process, kind of that on-ramp of the first few weeks of training camp, then everything after that is going to change. And that is going to be a big-time challenge, and that is going to take the NFL's entire focus and the NFLPA.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll miss huge gatherings of sweaty journos packed together at these camps. But the other side to me is that you're finding out, just like in baseball and in other sports, that there are NFL players that have real concerns. I thought Donovan Smith, the Bucs left tackle, wrote a really interesting Instagram post. Basically, he has a baby daughter on the way, and he's concerned about what that means. And, sometimes I think about when I was young. I once saw my third grade teacher at the supermarket, and I was in awe. What am I doing? What am I doing seeing my teacher here? She should just be in the classroom. And my mom was like, she's a real person with a real life. She buys food just like us. And you forget sometimes that these players are more than just guys that we plug into a fantasy football lineup. They have huge lives, families, and there's a lot more going on here than just basic testing and other guidelines.
And there's another part of this, and we saw it with baseball, how much the players union and the league were struggling to get on the same page. And it got so bad eventually that they just had the commissioner of baseball set a season, and there's a lot of bad blood between both sides. There is also going to be the business side of this that could get messy between football, the union, and the league. And Ian Rappaport of our insider said that there are almost everything is done. Ian said, agreed to, except for number of preseason games and testing protocols. And then the NFL Players Association said today, and it was a different tone, huge outstanding issues are still unresolved. And that came from Richard Sherman, who's on the executive committee of the NFLPA. We haven't agreed to anything in the proposal, and literally just sent them a response, but all will be revealed. There's a lot of work to be done here, Greg, and the clock is ticking.
And it's understandable. We're asking these sports leagues to contain a virus that the country has not. And there has been some big time challenges within baseball, within basketball. It's going to happen within NFL. That's going to require some patience, and it's going to be hard. And it really starts now. I mean, the planning, and then the next couple of weeks is when it starts.
All right, so we'll continue to track this both on the Around the NFL podcast, which you can get multiple times a week, and on this very show every Friday. Now, there was other news in the NFL, big news about Patrick Mahomes. Historic news, even.
It's time for another edition of This Week in NFL History. July 6, 2020, the Chiefs and quarterback Patrick Mahomes reach agreement on a 10-year contract extension worth $503 million with $477 million in guarantee mechanisms. Guarantee mechanisms, people. Do you know what that means? I know, but I'll never tell you. Ever! The pact represents the largest contract in sports history as Mahomes becomes the first athlete with a $500 million contract and the first NFL player to be the highest paid athlete in the sports world. We've come a long way from Tyler Thigpen, Chiefs Kingdom. Seriously, guys, I know it's the middle of the summer, but do you even understand what we're trying to do here? This happened on Monday. It's a retrospective piece. Whatever. And that was another edition of This Week in NFL History. Support our boys.
I don't know why our voiceover guy, Jason Zumwalt's so hard on us. I mean, this is a time of year to come up with league history of note. And what happened this week was legit league history, Greg. $500 million contract. That is just something you could have never imagined, even 5 years ago in the NFL.
I mean, that was my favorite one yet. I thought that was amazing. And the contract is amazing. But I honestly believe that contract, in terms of the average salary per year and the guaranteed money and how it works, that's not really going to stand out that much over time, nearly as much as Patrick Mahomes is going to stand out as a player. Ultimately, other quarterbacks are going to catch up to him in terms of money, but I don't think they're going to catch up to him in terms of play. And I also don't think it's going to be a trend to be signing these 10-year contracts. We had Seth Payne, a former Houston Texans player, on our podcast this week. He mentioned Deshaun Watson wants a 3-year deal, and Dak Prescott wants a 4-year deal. There's some disagreement there with the Cowboys. I don't think a lot of players are going to say, hey, I'll sign up for a decade, because really the Chiefs control Mahomes' future for the next decade.
Well, right. It's so rare. And I think most teams would say, we like this quarterback a lot, but projecting where they'll be a decade from now is crazy. I guess there might be something wrong with me. I'm not one of these people that when I see a deal like this, that my eyes pop out of my head and I'm going crazy and, melting into a puddle. I want to wait and see what happens with the contract down the road. But I will say this. The big winner here is Andy Reid. I mean, look, he has reached Oz. The future is unknown and totally bright at this point. He has had 3 losing seasons since 1999. He now has a chance after one Super Bowl. Who knows? He could win 4 or 5 more. I just think that Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are the perfect creative duo. And for this reason alone, this deal made a ton of sense. They said they had this in their thinking years ago when he was a rookie, when he wasn't even starting, so that the plan has gone perfectly for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I would counter that while Andy Reid's certainly a winner in this, the big winner, I would say it's probably Patrick Mahomes' great grandchildren. I think they win in all this too. Also, Lee Steinberg, his agent, he's a big winner. He could have had Mitch Trubisky. Maybe he does. I don't know. Instead, he got Patrick Mahomes, and that's incredible. And my one last thought on that, Greg, yes, he signed a 10-year deal. And you see other superstar quarterbacks and more superstar talk coming up in just a little bit, looking to sign 3-4-year packs. Doesn't it feel more likely that instead of this going the distance as a 10-year deal, that in 3 or 4 or 5 years, he restructures it or signs a different type of deal, and this is all kind of for naught, ultimately, the conversation?
Absolutely. And the Chiefs are going to have control over it, but eventually he's going to be underpaid. I believe all these quarterbacks are underpaid. I really do. I mean, when the number 1 quarterback and the number 9 quarterback ends up making about the same amount of money, they're underpaid. You're telling me Patrick Mahomes isn't worth 2 Nate Solders? I mean, give me a break. You're right. They'll have to rip it up in 4 years.
I would say this, if Patrick Mahomes is ever watching this, if you could just purchase me potentially one modest house up in the Hollywood Hills. It is a dime out of his pocket. Is that too much to ask Dan?
You're not doing Hollywood Hills. He'll get you a place up in Sierra Madre, all right? That's the best he can do. All right, good conversation, guys. We got a lot to get to still. Training camps are set to open later this month. What are some of the well-worn annual storylines soon to be reintroduced to the public? Top 10 training camp tropes right after the break. Welcome back to the broadcast. You know, we've been doing this for a while now, guys. And because of that, you start to notice certain storylines this time of year through the spring and summer that pop up every year. The players change, the teams change, but the storylines themselves are familiar. I called them tropes of the offseason, and I thought maybe it'd be fun today to go through the top 10 training camp tropes, and we could discuss whether they're memories or predictions of who will be involved with them. What do you guys think about this? Seems like a fun little idea.
Let's do it.
Usually tropes annoy me. This year, give me all the training camp tropes. Give me every guy's in the best shape of his life story, please. Thank you.
Basically anything that resembles normalcy, we appreciate. So let's get to it. We'll go 10-1, Letterman style. Number 10. Draft Bust X looks like he's ready to turn the corner. Always fun.
Oh yeah, please. It's always like the fourth year guy. It's like, okay, this is the year Leonard Fournette's finally gonna do it.
You can go. John Ross is another popular guy recently. Rashard Perriman, we've heard through the years, and then he actually did have something of a breakout last season. All right, number 9. New quarterback wide receiver tandem display undeniable chemistry.
It's from the offseason workouts. Tom Brady, I think, has got to be the only guy that's actually still working out with his receivers. Sorry.
Number 8, player X. I'm better now than I was before my devastating lower body injury.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Adrian Peterson 2015, I think a lot of this it feels like hot air sometimes.
You root for them. Jake Butt has had the story written about him for about 5 straight years now. Number 7, second-year player X. The game, it slowed down for me.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of how I feel when Dan makes one of those Tito's and sodas in his garage you're looking at right there for me. So I can relate.
How about a little Daniel Jones? This is always like a quarterback trope. And it's true. Like, the game looked very, very fast for Daniel Jones last year. I feel like he's someone, we even got some video here, that he's that guy this year. Jason Garrett's going to slow it down for him.
And, of course, the opposite of this is the offense has never been faster, which will pop up at some point for a player or a team. Number 6, soft-spoken star ready to take on recently vacated leadership role. I remember last summer, Ezekiel Elliott was floated as a man who would become a vocal leader in the Cowboys locker room. I'm not sure that ever happened. Number 5, Twilight veteran X is like, quote, adding another coach to the locker room, close quote. And, I love this one. I don't want to pick on your boy, and he's on my team now, Greg, but Frank Gore, people have been writing this story about old Frank Gore, the inconvenient truth, for about 10 years now. Also, Frank was interviewed this summer and said that he has a chip on his shoulder, the rare double trope. Locker room coach and chip on the shoulder.
Well, you know why it keeps happening? Because teams realize how valuable he is. They keep having to give him money. Look, he's immortal.
All right. Number 4, Coach X. We can't let Hard Knocks become a distraction. Can't do it. Won't do it.
Yeah, that's fine for Coach X until you find out 20 minutes into the first episode that Jared Goff doesn't know where the sun rises, and one of your defensive tackles is a flat earther, and a third guy thinks that dinosaurs exist, 200 meters below Norway. So it's the problems right away for these Hard Knocks guys. Problems.
Don't forget your Browns mark in the premiere of the Browns season when the offensive coordinator was openly undermining the head coach in a meeting that was on national television.
Well, it's trying to help us forget that one.
Number 3, we're in the top 3 now. Player X, quote, like a different QB after training with Tom House in the offseason.
Yeah, that is ponderous. And there's also, you get the guys like Mitch Trubisky that trained with Tom one-bedroom apartment. So it's not, it doesn't work for everyone.
Tom House owes us royalties, on an NFL network, please.
Number 2, injury-prone player X added muscle to frame in offseason. And I have a rejoinder on this one. Player Y, I'm in the best shape of my life. Always sturdy. No.
It's the classic. I'm looking forward to the pandemic kind of twists on that. That's like the pandemic actually helped me get in better shape than if I was surrounded by professionals.
true of us.
Oh, that's coming. That's absolutely coming. And the number one training camp trope to be on the lookout for in the NFL in the next month, quarterback X reminds veteran player Y of Brett Favre.
Oh, Dan. See, no. Because I know where this came from, because this is most recently was attached to Baker Mayfield, and it got on Dan's radar right away. And when I read this list before.
Listen, you're in your head as a Browns fan, right, as usual, Mark. Yes, Baker Mayfield has been connected to this trope before, but it's been happening for about 20 years now. It's not, Baker's just the latest, and he won't even be the most recent in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just wait
be
till
Sam
Joe Burrow
Darnold,
starts
too.
practicing.
It could be Matthew Stafford has got it. Like, they're all over the league. Derek Carr used to get it. Your boy, Sam Darnold. There's a lot of Favres out there.
All right, there you go. Be on the lookout for the training camp tropes that we all love and hate. Coming up next, Allen Robinson busted out as one of the top playmakers in the NFC last season. He joins the broadcast to talk about what to expect from the Bears in 2020. Maybe he'll tell us who's throwing him the ball. Probably not. Definitely not.
And he's going to go in for a Chicago touchdown. Robinson into the end zone. Touchdown, Chicago.
Now watch this release. That is great work on his part.
Robinson, touchdown.
Welcome back to the broadcast, and we have a very special guest joining us now, one of the great playmakers in the NFC from the Chicago Bears, Allen Robinson. Welcome to the broadcast, Allen.
Thanks for having me. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I'm excited. I feel like you're one of those guys that the real heads know, like the football heads who are watching every game every week, are always really excited to watch you. But I feel like we need to help you out, kind of like boost your rating, kind of your branding, so that everyone knows. A buddy of ours, Matt Harmon, he does some stats where he has you as the single best route runner against man coverage in the league. Like, what do you think we need to do for you to build up that Allen Robinson brand?
Help us help you.
I think the biggest thing for us is just, getting back to playoff football. I think when you see teams get into the playoffs and really, get on that stage and you see guys elevate their game, I think that's where a lot of the notoriety comes, and also for myself, it's just continuing to stack years together. Again, I got hurt, then I played, 12 or so games the year after that, then I had last year. So, again, it's just continue to stack the years up, again. So I'm looking forward to the season to build off of what I did last year. And I know I got to take my game to another level this season.
You talk about getting back to the playoffs, and you brought in another quarterback, Nick Foles, to compete with Mitch Trubisky. That's one of the bigger camp battles out there in the NFL. You've been on these Zoom meetings during this weird pandemic offseason. You spent time with Mitch Trubisky before, but you're spending time now with Nick Foles. What is the difference, in your opinion, between these two guys?
It's funny because I would probably say that they're, first off, they're both two great competitors. I think the difference is, you have one guy who has, a ton of experience as far as in the league and just being around the league, being in different situations, being on different teams, different environments, and things like that. And you have another guy who's, pretty fresh into the league, and again, that's not good or bad for either. It's just kind of where they differ at, but at the same time, they both bring a lot to the table as far as football wise. They both have a ton of pros, so it'll be definitely interesting to see how that plays out and fun to be a part of it.
I'm kind of fascinated, Allen, by these team Zoom meetings. Now, we're all involved with these to stay in touch with family and friends, but now professional football is doing it to try to get ready for the season. I'm curious, what is it like? Is it every single person connected to these meetings, you could all see each other? And if so, do you find your mind wandering and you're noticing who's not paying attention, who's sleeping? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, I think the funniest thing is, everybody kind of joking on people that's seeing their background and seeing what's going on around them, seeing their theme screen photo and stuff like that. It's also pretty funny, seeing who may not have their their mic on mute. I think that's funny as well, because you may hear some static in the background, and everybody's swiping really quickly to try to see who that person is, whose mic is unmuted. So I think that's also a pretty funny thing about Zoom. And we have some jokesters on our team, so it's always a lot of going back and forth in the chat.
Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain.
You hear?
Go ahead, Dan.
Do you have girlfriends in the background you hear yelling at their men and things like that? A real domestic peek behind the curtain?
We do.
For your teammates?
So.
No, I think one of the funny ones was I think because like during the offseason and stuff, the NFL has like people as far as like drug testing and stuff like that. So you had one person who had like a drug test while we were like doing one of our meetings. You may have other person that may have like a kid or something in the background. So it's all different. It's all different things and all different stuff that you hear in the background. But it's pretty funny.
I got a weird question
get to
for you.
know your coworkers like a little bit better, just being able to like see their house suddenly. A little peek behind the curtain. This is our second try taping this interview, because the first one we had technical problems, which is pretty much the experience of having Zoom calls and everything this offseason. I gotta wonder though, how is it affecting you? Not just the Zoom calls, but this pandemic. How is it affecting you trying to be able to train to be a world-class athlete in a couple weeks?
Yeah, it's been different. It's been different in the sense that for me personally, I'm used to a lot of organized training, as far as with my trainer, at different facilities and stuff like that, So with that being something that the NFLPA and a lot of places have wanted to, go against, it's been different. Again, trying to be able to do the same regimen and stay on your same thing throughout the course of a whole offseason, but also trying to maintain a lot of these different precautions that they're putting out there, so it's been different, again, at the same time, even looking and thinking about during season, how that will be, being able to get outside treatment, and how you may or may not go about things, so I'm very curious to see just kind of how everything plays out and the changes that come along with it.
That's
huge.
We're
all very curious, Alan. Thank you for joining us, Alan. We will be tracking, of course, everything as you go through the training camp process and obviously into the season. So thank you for joining us on today's show.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
You got it. Coming up next, we're just getting started on the NFC North. Up next, we welcome in the great Stacey Dales, who sits in the hot chair to discuss one of the most wide open divisions in football. Stay right there. Welcome back to the broadcast. And yes, we're still talking NFC North. Allen Robinson was an excellent guest, but look who's in the chair now. The great Stacey Dales of NFL Network. Stacey, welcome to the Around the NFL broadcast.
So I've been waiting for as long as this broadcast has been in existence to be on the show. And I'm like finally getting invited. It's taken a long time.
Putting us on the hot seat.
It's fair.
Yeah, we deserve it. That is always, whenever we get that comment, we're like, are we the worst people ever? Well, maybe we are, but let's rectify that, Stacey, because we're so happy to have you on the show here. And to show how grateful we are, we're going to put you right in the hot seat and a big spot to discuss the NFC North, which you cover so well for the network. You are a former All-American at Oklahoma. You are an WNBA All-Star. So I feel like you can handle pressure, right? Look at that. Look at the confidence. All right.
Yeah.
Our producer,
My
Jason
seat is
Kleiman.
really hot. My seat is really hot right now. It's got coals. I don't know if you guys watch Alone on the History Channel, but I've got some hot rocks under this seat right now.
Wow.
Look at that. I'm intimidated now. Now my seat's getting warm. All right. Our producer, Jason Kleiman, we have some kind of tension music. Let's get some tension. Let's ratchet it up a little bit more. And we're just going to go around the horn. Stacey, and you have the option to say pass on any question you choose. But once we get going, we don't stop until you're off the seat. You ready?
I'm ready, and I hope the teams that I cover still like me after this.
All right. Let's hit it. Here we go. Hey, will Dalvin Cook get a new contract before 2021?
Absolutely. Dalvin Cook, over 1,000 yards on the ground last season. one of the best rushers in the game, and he's a young buck. He's gonna run the ball for years to come. Yes.
All right, Stacey, what does Matt Nagy behind closed doors really think about Mitchell Trubisky? What do you think he thinks?
He really likes Mitchell Trubisky. That is the truth. He has believed in him since he took over the franchise a couple years ago. But if Mitch doesn't perform within, I would say, 4 weeks, it's his job to lose. You're going to see a replacement at quarterback.
All right. I'm going to go to Detroit, and I'm going to put this in my ear right here because there's a certain coach there, Matt Patricia, and I just want to know because he seems to wear this. Yeah, I get it. It was very organic in New England and wore it there. And then he does it. He wears a suit and he wears it. Do you think that there's any evidence that Matt Patricia is secretly receiving payments from Big Pencil, the pencil corporations to wear this prop throughout the year? Are you on the case? Is there any evidence, Stacey?
I think if he cracks 500, somebody might be in on it. Maybe at Bic. I'm not sure. All the pencil brands. Let me grab a couple pencils that I have in here. I'm a big pencil user. So I've got a Bic. Yeah, I've got a Bic. I've got a Pentel, and I've got a Zebra right here.
Big pencil taking some heat right now.
Yeah, if Matt Patricia cracks 500, you guys, one of these may come calling.
Interesting.
I think at this point we should get some funds for that. We're suggesting it. It's happening right here.
All right. So far you're doing
correct.
Well, Stacey, but now it's going to get more difficult.
A little too well.
If you had to guess, who's the better dancer? The aforementioned Matt Patricia or Kirk Cousins?
Ooh.
I'm going to go with Matt Patricia because I have seen Kirk Cousins break it down a little bit. And yeah, he put up some astronomical numbers last year, but I'm going with Matt Patricia for sure.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, we've seen Patricia at the owners' meetings. He can cut it loose a little bit. I feel like I now have to. We have to stick with Cousins because as Dan mentioned, you're a world-class athlete. Is Kirk Cousins the guy you would follow into battle, Stacey, as your leader?
Oh my gosh.
Answer the question, please.
This is the hardest question yet. Do I have any other choices?
I mean, you still have pass. People will read into the pass, but you have pass as an option.
So he had 107.4 passer rating last season, 26 touchdowns.
You know what that means.
26 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Because he won his first playoff game ever last year, I will say, yes, I'll give it a chance. But I have have to see this year what happens.
This is going to be the worst army ever.
Well,
okay.
That is a resounding yes. I'm going to make it a little more personal. We before we got on here, I saw you're a dog person. You had a beautiful dog in the background there. If you had to pick one NFC North coach to take care of your dog for like a month, I'm not talking one day, but to really have a relationship, you're on a long vacation, which coach do you trust the most to jump in there and do a good job?
This is an amazing question. Well, Matt Nagy has a dog or two, so I might go with him. But just because Mike Zimmer has a place in Ohio, I think, and a lot of land, I might go with Mike Zimmer because he's got space for my dog to run. My dogs, I have 3 of them. So I might go with Mike Zimmer.
Should the Lions get a Thanksgiving game always, every year? For real?
Dan!
Come on.
Nailed it. Hans has nailed it. No.
Oh, wow.
See, they should have some turkey.
You are going to have angry people in Detroit. We know that. That was an easy yes.
City,
for Detroit.
The Motor City might. Right. The Motor City might hate me. But I do, I do that game every year, you guys, and I love that game. I love it because
you used to love it.
It's an 11 a.m. kickoff. So super early. And my boss, Dave Schott, clears me to take the last flight out of Detroit that night, which is like 4:30. So I end up, I love covering post-game, trust me. But I always get to come home for Thanksgiving that night. So that's cool.
And you did a great job. You showed no fear, not that we expected you to, and we'd love to have you back another time. All right, coming up next, put on your mask and step behind the velvet ropes of the Superstar Club. We welcome in some fresh faces and ask some older stars to get out. It's going to get awkward. Stick around.
Taking himself. He's got the corner. Touchdown. Stays upright. And here's Saquon Barkley. And he's off to the races. Oh, he's knocked out. Hit by Von Miller. Breaks one tackle. Another. One. Picked off. Gilmore. Touchdown. Michael Thomas. Real Matt with the sack. Open for Mahomes. He high steps it in for the touchdown.
Welcome to the Superstar Club, the most exclusive venue in the National Football League, in our league, a place where only the best of the best have admittance, that get behind the velvet rope. Me, the doorman, I decide who gets in. I also decide who gets kicked out. And I'll tell you something, Sessler, it's a zero-sum game. Someone comes in, someone's got to go. That's how the Superstar Club works. That's how my venue works.
Well, you're in control, as usual.
All right. I don't like that. You're being fresh. All right. Let's get to it. Who is in the club? We have two new members, the quarterback. Listen, the quarterbacks, they sit in the bottle service section, and we have two new names, and one is Lamar Jackson. And yeah, you know what? I wish I could have had a little bit more ability to be into the future and not put him into the club when he's already the MVP. But I didn't think he was a superstar last summer. He certainly is now. He's an easy pick. Less of an easy pick for me was Dak Prescott. But then I started thinking about it, and almost it was a reaction to, Greg, all these chuckleheads out there, the talking heads that just don't stop telling us that Dak Prescott isn't special. He's a superstar. They're in the club.
No brainers. And who you kicked out, Cam Newton and Andrew Luck, I'm sorry, but I think that made a lot of sense too. My question for you, though, is I thought the Tom Brady bias that you had, because you're a Jets guy and he was on the Patriots, maybe it ends now. Like, answer me this. When was the last time Ben Roethlisberger had a better season than Tom Brady?
Let me just see.
Find that in your little stats. Yeah, please. Yeah, check it out.
Tom Brady.
Let me know when that was.
Tom Brady, Ben Roethlisberger is still a big time performer, but of course he's on the ropes, on the wrong side of the ropes potentially because of the injury last year. But I don't kick out people for injury. Tom Brady got booted last year, and I nailed that one. Let's be honest, he was not a superstar quarterback. Maybe he makes me look dumb with the Bucs and a better surrounding cast, and that's just where I came down. I have no qualms about kicking out Tom Brady.
Isn't getting into the club about a little more than performance? By the way, the last season Ben and Brady are both healthy. Brady wins the Super Bowl. Isn't it more about star power too? It's a little bit about like who's gonna bring the people. Let's throw them on a team in Tampa that no one pays attention to, and suddenly that's the biggest team in the league. 5 primetime games. That's how you define a superstar.
For all the bias you say I have for Tom Brady, your hatred of Ben Roethlisberger is well documented on our program.
I would just like to see you dragging Andrew Luck out of the club. Good luck. Have you been next to him in person? He's like a front door, please.
No, the reason why Andrew Luck is so great, he had 2 ginger ales at the bar. He made small talk and then left before closing time. I mean, you got to respect that. All right, let's move to the running backs. Where I decided I had to make some moves here too. 2 in, 2 out. In Dalvin Cook, who after teasing us for a couple of years, we always thought he had a real chance to be a stud. Then he was a stud last year, was one of the great running backs in the league. Derrick Henry, another no-brainer. I feel a little annoyed that I didn't pick up on how dominant he was at the 2018 season. Didn't put him in the club this year, but he had to come in after winning the rushing title and carrying the Titans almost to the Super Bowl. Out, Le'Veon Bell, who really obviously fell off hard. I think he'll be better this year, but you just have to wonder at 28 years old, it's been a while since we saw peak Bell. And Todd Gurley, who can still find the end zone, but he's just not the same guy. The Falcons think he is, though. And then let's check out the wide receivers. Tyreek Hill in. Last year, I would have had him, and he's been a superstar performer for a few years now, but he had those ugly off-the-field issues that had put his career in limbo. After last year winning a Super Bowl, best deep threat in the league. Amari Cooper, he's just going to go nuts this season, I think, in that offense and put up numbers that you can't deny. He'll put up numbers as good as anyone in the league. Out, Antonio Brown, no-brainer, easy. And Juju Smith-Schuster, who I got a little excited about, Mark, last year with Juju. And I had some regrets.
Well, I have no problem with the wide receivers that you kicked out or the running backs that you kicked out. I am genuinely interested in the process here on how you skipped over
Trust
Nick
the
Chubb.
process.
And look at Dalvin Cook is an excellent player. But I wonder if the Browns had a few less penalties and Nick Chubb, some of his big runs had counted 50 more yards, he would have been the leading rusher in the NFL. He had the most broken tackles in the league last year. He is PFF's most elusive back. And when I just simply watch him, he is the best pure runner in the NFL. And I'm not coming at you with just a Browns thing here. Dan, I am genuinely a little annoyed. Right when this thing ends, I'm going to drive out there to that store next to my house, buy about 300 eggs. I know where you live. I'm driving over. I'm going to egg your house. I'm going to throw some eggs on the roof, some eggs in the backyard, some eggs on the front door. This is ridiculous.
Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down. Let me just double check the list. Maybe I missed him. Maybe he's on here. No, I'm sorry. He's not.
Well, there is a trend of you deciding a year later that these guys are superstars, and I think we'll be there when we do this exercise next July.
Can I tell you this? It was very close. In all seriousness, it was very close. It was very close.
Now it's serious. You don't have the glasses on.
Between Dalvin Cook and Nick Chubb. But I just decided with Kareem Hunt there, is he going to be have the role in the offense that a true superstar has? That's what I need to see. That's all. And meanwhile, Dalvin Cook, there's no questioning what he does and how important he is to the Vikings.
I have no argument. I love Nick Chubb, but to me, Dalvin Cook right now, a little bit more of a superstar. I do feel bad, though. What does Allen Robinson have to do to get into the superstar? He comes on our show and he can't even get through the doors. I mean, this is an exclusive place.
That's a fair point as well. But listen, I didn't say the superstar club was fair. It just is what it is. All right. Thanks, boys. And I hope we're cool. Mark, with the Nick Chubb thing. I knew that would be an issue. All right, coming up next, one final thought about a special friend of ours. Come right back. Chris Wessling, you're like family to us. What's going on with you, buddy?
Well, I planned on being back sooner, but like a week before Link was born, I went in for my regular CT scan, and it showed some lymph node activity in my abdominal cavity. So they arranged for a PET scan about a month later. And about 3 weeks ago, my doctor told me that I've got another pretty serious fight on my hands. Cancer has returned in my abdominal cavity and several places on my skeleton. They are M&M-sized lesions. So my doctor is telling me that we've got the luxury of time because we caught it early. So starting hopefully late this week, early next week, I'll be doing a combination of chemotherapy and targeted therapy for a month and then another month of treatment. So 2 months total. And then we're going to run some scans and hopefully it will be like last time where we find out the cancer has been obliterated and I can get back to a normal quality of life and continuing to be with my lovely wife and my son.
All right, that was Chris Wessling on Wednesday's edition of the Around the NFL podcast. Obviously crushing news. Wes is a member of the family, a member of this podcast from the beginning. He beat cancer once, and now he has another fight on his hand once again, as you heard. And we wish Wes was with us right now, but we know right now what he needs to be doing is getting healthy and beating this, which we know he will.
Yeah, I think you got an idea from that clip, I've always thought of him as kind of the heart and soul of the show, and we miss him. And his openness to me is kind of inspiring how he's tackled this. And I can't help but think about, the people around him, his newborn baby, Lincoln, and his wife, Lakeisha, who works with us at NFL Network, who's the most positive, energetic person I know. And I think about Lincoln, and I think he's like such a lucky baby. That he's going to have Chris, as an example, and Keisha as an example, and we know that he's going to get through this.
Yeah, that's perfectly said, Greg. And we got to know the two of them as a couple after knowing Wes, and Wes talked many times about he would not have gotten through his initial battle without Lakeisha, and so with her, beside him, and with Link there, what a threesome! I think the other thing about Wes. I can cycle through everyone I've ever met, all my friends, and he stands out to me as the toughest guy that I know. And, I'm not just saying that. It's like we all watched what he went through and how he grew from it and how he changed. And I just have no doubt that Wes is more prepared than ever to fight this time. And he has got so many friends and the outpouring of listeners, too, supporting him right now that it's an upward arrow. He's going to be fine.
It's actually just, you guys said it. It took the wind right out of our sails to find this out, especially right before the baby with all of this happening right now. But I'm just going to echo your guys' sentiments. I mean, it's the best, for him. He is out of all of us, the most badass, awesome, positive, and just to see their spirits, it is absolutely almost uplifting how they handle this. And we just we send all our love to them, and they're just the coolest. And I'm glad it's Wes and not us, because he's way better at handling this, and he's going to do it again.
You got to step in, Erica. You got to step in and now start taking me down, because the show misses Wes basically arguing with me and taking me down, when I get a little out of hand. So that's really gonna fall onto you now, Erica.
Well, he knows more than you.
Yeah, and the other thing we're missing is Wes, of all of us, throws these, if anyone's not been to them, these WrestleMania bashes in his backyard. I know we can't do that right now anyways, but man, we need that. We're good. There's going to be a time, and Dan, you're going to be grilling out there too. We're going to get this. We're going to get back together. We need to.
Oh, yeah. Well, we beat this together with West once, and we'll do it again. And thank you to all the listeners of the Around the NFL podcast and the viewers of this show who've reached out to us, and I'm sure have reached out to Wes. How can we help? We'll continue to keep you in the loop, as I'm sure Wes will keep us in the loop, because one of the things that's so incredible about Wes as a person is openness and his fearlessness and ability to kind of share where he is emotionally. So we're on this journey with him, and we love him. And Wes, get back here soon. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching another edition of the Around the NFL broadcast. We'll be back in 2 weeks with another show, so make sure you set your DVRs. Watch it live, too. We have that level of viewership and fandom. So we love you guys. Come back, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Until then, bye.